Squid Game Season 3 gave us a detailed look at the skills, or lack thereof, of a lot of different players. In this video, we'll be analyzing their strength, starting with the absolute weakest and building up to the strongest. So be sure to subscribe and let's get into it. Baby, player 222. At the absolute bottom of the power ranking, we find the most unique contestant in Squid Game history, the newborn baby of player 222. While technically becoming a player after her mother's death, the baby represents ultimate vulnerability. Lacking any agency, skill, strength, or understanding of the horrors unfolding, her survival depended entirely on the mercy and strategic calculations of others. The baby's existence introduced a chaotic and emotional element into the cold logic of the games. During the final dinner, the announcement that the baby was now an official player, inheriting her mother's number and potential prize money, threw the remaining contestants into turmoil. The prize money per person dropped, and the baby immediately became a target for elimination, a symbol of an unfair complication in their deadly pursuit of wealth. Her most notable appearance was during the fifth game, Jump Rope, where Gi-hun carried her across the perilous bridge. This act of compassion and incredible risk highlighted Gi-hun's character, but it also cemented the baby's status as a liability. This was even more the case when her own father threatened to kill her. She couldn't jump, she couldn't fight, she couldn't even vote. Her only strength was the humanity she inspired in a few, and the frustration she caused in many. In a world defined by survival of the fittest, the baby was the epitome of helplessness. Player 007, Young-sik. Next on our list is player 007, Young-sik, the son of player 149. His entire arc is defined by fear and inadequacy. While many players entered the games with a hidden resolve, Young-sik wore his weakness like a shroud. This was most evident before the fourth game, Hide and Seek, when he traded places with his mother, who had bad knees, taking on the role of a killer. The intention might have been noble, an attempt to protect his mother from a physically demanding task. However, when faced with the reality of having to take a life, he froze. He found a wounded player, someone he could have easily eliminated, but his hesitation and fear cost him dearly. The other player fought back, and Young-sik was only saved by the intervention of another killer. This pattern of inaction and fear followed him. His glasses were broken, symbolizing his shattered confidence and distorted view of the game's reality. His journey ends in a heart-wrenching confrontation with his own mother at a crossroads. Unable to secure a kill, he faces elimination and turns on the last remaining person he sees, player 222. His mother, in a final tragic act of both love and desperation, stabs him with her hairpin to save him from a worse fate and to protect the newborn and its mother. Young-sik was a boy in a monsters game, and his weakness was his inability to become one. Namu, player 124. Namu presents a fascinating case of manufactured strength. At the start of the games, he projected an aura of dominance and cruelty, styling himself after the villain Thanos and relying on a stash of pills to fuel his aggression. He was a force to be reckoned with during the hide-and-seek game, partnering with the formidable player 333 to hunt down other contestants. His swagger and confidence, however, were entirely dependent on his drug use. The pills were his power, and without them, the facade crumbled completely. After losing his necklace containing the drugs, he devolved into a panicked, screaming mess, begging the guards to let him go back and find it. The powerful predator was revealed to be a desperate addict. This weakness was masterfully exploited by Minsu, who had the necklace. Namu's downfall came during the jump rope game. Lured onto the track by Minsu with the promise of his pills, he discovered the cross was empty. The realization, the sudden withdrawal from his source of courage, caused him to freeze. The once intimidating player was effortlessly swept away, a powerful reminder that true strength cannot be found in a pill, but is forged in fire. Minsu, player 125. The character arc of Minsu is a dark mirror to Namu's. He begins the story as a coward, frequently called out for his spinelessness. He's the one hiding in a room during the hide-and-seek game, too afraid to properly participate, despite being on the red team. His transformation begins when he finds Namu's cross and consumes one of the remaining pills. This act propels him from one extreme to the other. The coward becomes a dangerous gangster in disguise, turning the tables on Namu. He cruelly taunts his former tormentor during the jump rope game, dangling the empty necklace as bait and watching him get eliminated. This newfound confidence is, of course, as artificial as Namu's. Minsu's strength was borrowed, not earned. He survived longer than Namu, but his erratic behavior, hallucinations of his dead love Sei-mi, and clear psychological instability made him an obvious target. During the final game on the pillars, the other contestants democratically decide he is the weakest link. Due to his hallucinations, he is easily dispatched and shoved off the edge. He was a man who briefly wore a mask of strength, but underneath, he was just as broken as the man he was tormented by all along. Player 203. In the brutal ecosystem of the Squid Game, there is always a place for simple, straightforward muscle, and that role was filled by player 203. He was a brute, a physically imposing figure who relied on intimidation and force. He demonstrated his ruthlessness during the jump rope game, carelessly kicking another player to their death after she had made it back to the starting platform, fearing another player's murderous antics. His strength was his power, but his weakness was his mind. He was not a strategist or a manipulator. He was a pawn. During the final game on the Sky Pillars, he was the obvious choice to be the enforcer for the majority group. This lack of foresight and over-reliance on aggression ultimately led to his demise. During the chaotic brawl on the Triangle Pillar, he focused solely on attacking Gi-hun. While locked in a struggle with an inexperienced but sly fighter, he was vulnerable. Gi-hun, with his deep resolve and quick thinking, managed to turn the tables and fatally stab him. Player 203 was strong enough to kill the weak, but not smart enough to outlast the cunning. Player 100. Player 100 was the quintessential schemer, a player who understood that the games were as much about politics and betrayal as they were about physical skill. His primary strength was his seemingly never-ending selfish survival instinct. He was willing to do anything and sacrifice anyone to advance to the next round. We see his ruthlessness early on during hide and seek. When finding the exit door thanks to the help of the Shaman, he heartlessly abandons her and locks the door, allowing her to be murdered by a crazed Minsu. Player 100 is consistently at the forefront of any group plotting, always looking for a way to shift the target onto someone else. He's also the one who planned multiple schemes to increase the prize pool by eliminating innocent players. However, his strategic mind was also his greatest weakness. He was physically unremarkable, and his constant betrayals meant he could never be truly trusted. In the final game, his attempts to orchestrate the eliminations of others fell apart as alliances shifted. When the brawl erupted, his scheming was no match for the raw violence that ensued. He was ultimately pushed from the final pillar, a symbolic end showcasing that, in the Squid Games, a reputation for treachery leaves you with no one to watch your back. Player 44, the Shaman. I know what you're probably thinking, but hear me out for a sec. Player 44 was a master manipulator, but her tools were not knives or brute force. Instead, she chose to wield faith and psychology. She cultivated a small group of devout followers who believed in her supposed psychic abilities, using their dedication to navigate the deadly arena safely. Her holy hand guided them through the maze of hide and seek, and her commands for obedience kept them in line. Her true nature was revealed when she led her loyal followers directly into an ambush set by Namu and Mongi. She sacrificed them without a moment's hesitation to save herself. She further proved her ability to adapt by snitching on the wounded Daeho's location to a vengeful Gi-hun, successfully diverting his attention away from her and securing her ability to find the exit. Her power, however, was entirely dependent on having believers to control. When isolated and confronted by an unpredictable force, she was helpless. She was betrayed as soon as her usefulness ended, only to be found by a crazed, hallucinating Minsu. Her psychological tricks were useless against a man lost in his own delusions. In her final moments, she was just another terrified player, and Minsu stabbed her, hallucinating that she was someone else entirely. Player 333, Mongi. Player 333, also known as Mongi, was one of the most physically dominant and strategically ruthless players of the season. From the outset, he established himself as a top-tier threat. In the hide-and-seek game, he was a relentless hunter, and his partnership with Namu was super effective. He even came up with the plan to kill multiple blue players to eliminate red players by proxy, increasing the prize pool. He was not just a brute, he was just as intelligent and calculating. He understood the game's mechanics and was willing to form and break alliances as needed. His physical prowess was matched by a cold-blooded mindset that made him a favorite to win. He had all the tools necessary to claim the prize money. However, every Titan has an Achilles heel, and for Mongi, it was his love for player 222 and their unborn child. This profound emotional connection became his fatal flaw. It drove him to make a catastrophic error in judgment when he stabbed the heroic player 120 in the back, mistakenly believing she was a threat. This single act set him on a collision course with Gi-hun. In the final game, his desire to protect his child warped into a desperate, self-destructive possessiveness, leading to his dramatic fall from the final pillar. He had the strength to conquer the game, but not the emotional fortitude to conquer himself. Player 120. Player 120 would have had first place if this were solely a physical analysis. She was the heart and soul of the resistance against the game's cruelty, a beacon of strength, intelligence, and compassion. She was a natural leader, a protector who consistently put the safety of her small group above her own. Her capabilities were on full display during the fourth game, hide and seek. While others panicked, she calmly strategized, figuring out that the different keys corresponded to different locks. When her group, including the pregnant player 222 and the elderly player 149, was threatened by the aggressive player 226, she didn't hesitate. She stood her ground, engaged him in a fierce duel, and used her judo skills to disarm and eliminate him, saving everyone. Her strength was all around solid, a blend of physical skill, sharp intellect, and unwavering loyalty. She even discovered an exit path but chose to go back for her friends rather than save herself. This selfless act was her only weakness. Her trust in others, her belief in solidarity left her vulnerable. She was tragically stabbed in the back by player 333, a shocking end for a contestant who possessed all the qualities of a true winner. Had she been more ruthless, she might have survived, but then she wouldn't have been the player 120 we know and love. Gi-hun, player 456. At the pinnacle of strength, we find Gi-hun, a returning champion who redefined what it means to win. He began the season as a broken man, a soulless shell of his former self, chained to a bed and haunted by the deaths from the rebellion. His journey through the third season was not just about survival, but about the reclamation of his own humanity. He demonstrated physical resilience, most notably during the jump rope game, where he navigated the treacherous bridge with a baby strapped to his chest. But his true power was psychological and moral. He was given the ultimate test by the frontman, who offered him a knife and a simple path to victory: murder the other sleeping finalists and secure the prize for himself and the baby. It was the same choice the frontman himself once made. In a pivotal moment, seeing a vision of Sae-byeok, Gi-hun rejected this path. He chose good over evil, empathy over ruthless self-preservation. This led to his final act. After defeating player 33, he was the last man standing with only the baby left. He had won, but instead of accepting the victory, he looked at the VIPs, looked at the baby, and made a choice. By stepping off the final pillar, he eliminated himself, ensuring the baby was the sole winner. This was the ultimate display of strength, a complete and total victory over the game and its corrupting influence. He didn't just win the money, he conquered the very idea of the Squid Game. So these have been our picks for the strongest and weakest characters in Squid Game. Is there anybody we missed? Can you think of a better winner? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to see more Squid Game content and theories, click the video on screen now.